Whoever controls the flow of information dictates our perceptions and perspectives. Whoever controls the news shapes our destiny. The words of George Clinton, best known for his stint in Parliament Funkadelic. And I got to tell you, man, Maggot Brain was an absolute masterpiece. I, what? What? Seriously? Okay, real? Oh, okay. Apparently not that George Clinton. What the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, famous black commentators, right? In the words of Brother Malcolm, the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, and that's power because they control the minds of the masses. Very, very true. Who could deny the number of people that we interact with on a day to day basis who not only aren't in control of their own thoughts, but don't even realize that they're not in control of their own thoughts anymore? But as with everything else, it has a breaking point. Everything has a breaking point, whether it's a narrative, whether it's a belief system, whether it's a fundamental religion, even. Everything has its breaking point. And these breaking points and the way that we get there is often following a pretty familiar story arc that all of us can relate to. If you guys are on X, and you should be, this is a guy that you should be following. Matt Von Swole. Matt Von Swole is a resident of Western North Carolina. He's a Tar Heel boy. You guys know I've got a sweet spot for the Carolinas. I spent the first 18 years of my life in Western North Carolina. He was a diehard liberal. As far as his ideology was concerned, he wasn't much of an influencer, but he definitely was politically active, and he bought the entire narrative of the left. But then he had a red pill moment. All of us who have come around to the proper way of thinking have had that red pill moment. For me, it was Waco. Each one of you have probably had your own, and we could do a whole sermon on that, and maybe we will. But for Matt Von Swole, his red pill moment was Hurricane Helene, because he had always just gone on the assumption that the mainstream media was just telling him the truth. He always went on the assumption that the narrative that was presented by the legacy media was the truth, and only nut jobs followed other nut jobs on that crazy internet thing. Nobody got their news from the internet. You couldn't trust anything that came through there, not like the legacy media. And then he lived through Hurricane Helene. He lived through the response, and he got to see with his own eyes, much the way I did with Waco, that what the legacy media were saying and the actual events on the ground were two abjectly different things. This carried over. It was his red pill moment. He's made the transition slowly but surely and honestly and organically. That is the way that those true conversions happen. Not like some deathbed confession or some deathbed conversion where it just all comes sweeping to you, or a jailhouse conversion, a jailhouse confession, where it all just comes sweeping to you at once. It should be an organic and natural process. And that's how it's happened with Matt. And it's continued. And it gets stronger every day. This is a tweet of his shortly after Trump was reelected. Trump administration just approved $1.4 billion to rebuild homes for Hurricane Helene victims in Western North Carolina. Not a single mainstream media news outlet wrote a story on it. Not a single one. I admire the guy's innocence at that point. I'm reminded of Bruce Willis at the beginning of Die Hard. Welcome to the party, pal. But he's getting there. And he's become a strong advocate. In fact, I think you will find no stronger advocates for anti-leftist thinking than the apostates, the ones who had followed to a greater degree or lesser degree the official narrative, the orthodoxy, if you will, of the Democratic Party and of leftist media. He continues to be active in that media. Again, the irony of that is somewhat bitter because Fox just controlled opposition. We can all confess that. But it's not the media that we're talking about. It's the change in ideology and how that has happened on an organic level. One thing that he's come to as a conclusion was perfectly illustrated in one of his Twitter posts. As a former liberal and Democratic voter, just let me say that it is incredibly difficult to break out of a liberal media echo chamber once you are in it. This was a response to one of his former political associates calling him out for being an apostate. This is how it works. Why am I bringing all this up about Matt Vanswell? Because it's macrocosm, microcosm. Matt is in the microcosm. Matt is just another ordinary person. He's developed a bit of a following on Twitter, not much, not to the point where he'd be considered a profound right-wing extremist influencer, but he's got a little bit of a following. He's just a regular, ordinary guy. But on the world stage, particularly on the political stage, I don't think anyone's transition could be more perfectly represented than this young lady right here. I'll pause for a brief couple of seconds just to let you take in the beauty of this woman. I shamelessly am a Tulsi fanboy, no apologies. Quite beautiful. She was a rising star in the Democratic Party. In fact, highly placed in the Democratic National Committee at one point. But she started shifting gears because, as you've heard me say a million times, and will hear a million more times out of me before I draw my last breath, fundamentally, people are suckers for the truth. Even when she was still within the confines of the party, she was a true believer, but could not bring herself to overlook fundamental truths. In a matter of less than 2 minutes during the Democratic debates in 2016, Tulsi single-handedly ended the presidential ambitions of the cackling Jezebel that you see to the left. Now, granted, it would take a few more years for it to completely play out, for the absurdity of this woman having any platform at all to come fully to fruition, but this was the tipping point. Her honesty in calling out against the Democrat narrative when she was supposed to be there as token resistance to Kamala, that was a pretty profound moment. Some of you guys can remember witnessing it, and we remember how the Democratic Party lashed out in response. If they were trying to win her back, this certainly wasn't it. I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on someone who is currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be a third-party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians. This was the least damaging assessment that was made of her by top-ranking Democrats afterwards. It's a terrible damn thing that happened to her. But it was an eye-opening moment, and it shifted her further towards the center and eventually further towards the right. Once she had nearly broken with the Democratic Party and then made it official that she had broken with the Democratic Party, calling herself an independent and then eventually transitioning to Republican, she was placed on a no-fly list. Remember, as we said before, every fundamentalist religion has a hatred for infidels, but there is no deeper hatred than the one that they have for apostates. She had been one of them if she'd have just shut up and done what she was told. But she wouldn't. Later, this person who had been placed on the no-fly list as a punishment for breaking Democratic orthodoxy became Director of National Intelligence. Quite the transition indeed. But it happened naturally, it happened honestly, it happened on its own timetable, and it happened organically. But the media, at every step of this transition, that's what we got to focus on, the way that they played into it. It was the media that told you that she was a rising star in the Democratic Party, that she was eventually, in the distance, a presidential hopeful even. But she was certainly thinking the right way. She was certainly motivated by the right things. Then the same media told you she was a Russian asset. Then the same media tried to justify her being placed on a no-fly list. More allegations of her being a Russian puppet. None of it stuck. Tulsi was honest, and Tulsi stuck to her guns. She established a new intel community task force to restore trust and transparency, as tall and seemingly impossible an order as one could possibly imagine. but she took to it with tenacity because what she was doing was coming from the heart. But the media, even then, kept the fog of war around her, kept saying that she was out of her league, kept saying that she was a Russian puppet. They didn't outright say it anymore, but the insinuations were always there. And think how the mainstream media salivated at the thought of creating false divisions within the Republican Party when Trump allegedly rebuked her with regard to the bombing raid on Iran. A lot of us got caught up in that, myself included, for which I have issued the proper public mea culpas. And then, trying to use her own words against her, we should probably do a good chunk of a sermon, maybe not today, but another day on this. They said she did, in fact, say that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon. And she did, in fact, say that they could produce a nuclear weapon within weeks. Once you have access to highly enriched uranium, you are, by definition, only weeks away from a weapon. All that it takes is the nuclear material itself. The construction of a weapon is not that complicated. These two statements were not contradictory, even when given at the same hearing. But again, it was presented by the media as if it were her debating herself, like so many of the other things that they presented to present a false narrative. She redeemed herself this week above anybody else's criticism. She went public with the Russiagate hoax and all of the people, including the mulatto Messiah himself, who were responsible for it. And what did the media have to say? Well, here's a headline from The Atlantic. It's constantly the lies of whoever it is that they're trying to pigeonhole. Eventually, people are suckers for the truth. Do you understand what I'm getting at? Matt Von Swoll, ordinary guy, fundamentally a sucker for the truth. And when the truth presented itself, he looked that truth in the face and wouldn't walk away from it. Tulsi Gabbard, rising Democrat star, true believer. But she could not ignore the truth, even for the sake of a political career. And no matter how the media presents it, no matter how strong that propaganda is, and we have seen its strength in the number of people who are living in reality constructs that aren't even tangentially connected to what's really going on the planet. My goodness, it's amazing the amount of control these people have. But the truth is always going to be stronger. Christopher Bland recently did a piece on the death of Legacy News, and oddly enough, he did it on Medium, not a legacy news outlet. He spoke what we all know to be true, that you can only push people so far before they either push back or they walk away. Now, that sentiment isn't new. Bell Aurora, you can only push someone so far before that push sends them walking away in the opposite direction. Everyone has their limits. Keep coming back to that. There is a breaking point for everyone. Rachel Vincent, when you push someone too far, they will push back, and they will push hard. Because everyone has their limits. Everyone has their breaking point. The electorate in the United States seems to have reached their breaking point with legacy media. Each and every one of us have reached our breaking point with trusting the system, or you guys quite honestly wouldn't be sitting here listening to some toothless, crippled crane operator with some opinions rant and rave for a couple hours on a Sunday. We all feel betrayed. The saddest thing about betrayal is that it never comes from your enemies. It comes from those you trust the most. Trust doesn't come with a refill. Once it's gone, you probably won't get it back. And if you do, it will never be the same. And that's a fact. We would do well to remember, for those of us still supporting the current administration, that the same energetic rejection of the betrayal of those institutions that we once trusted, that swept this current administration into power, if betrayed, will sweep them right back out because everyone has their breaking point. So while yes, it's true, the legacy media is dying, the institutions don't hold the power that they did anymore, I would suggest to those who do hold the power now not to get complacent, because all of us, being fundamentally suckers for the truth, we have our breaking point. So I would suggest to those in power now to get your houses in order and get these very bad optics resolved. Because as great a betrayal as that would be, the greater will be the response to that betrayal. Square your ass up. Open the files and let us all make our own decision. History demands nothing less. And if you don't give it to us, it will eventually be taken by force. Don't mistake kindness for weakness. And definitely don't expect our quietude for acceptance, or you're about to learn a very, very harsh lesson in history. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors. And I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. That one is for the sake of you docs happy Antifa maggots out there. In any case, they have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind, and they are guaranteed to choke you with fistful after black latex glove fistful of truth cock until your jaw hinges come unhinged and we stretch your face beyond recognition. One way or the other, you are going to accept it. We could do this the easy way or the hard way, but either way, welcome back, boys and girls. It's time once again for the Sunday sermon. Another sleepy little Sunday. Glad you guys made it out. We're going to do the roll call here in a minute. Kind of all over the place for the opener, but I think you'll see where I'm going before it's over with. Drum roll, please. Everybody in for the drum roll, man. Happy to see everybody here, man. We're going to go down the roll call. Coming hard, charging out of the starting gate, as we always do, with the bumper music, courtesy of Red Desert, gut stomping rock and roll band from the smoldering embers and crumbling ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Older No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older. Every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. We'll see how it goes this week. I'm feeling kind of a coin toss. Let's get to that roll call. Showing up first, of course, Brother Roman and his lovely wife, Carrie, from opiumtales.com. Happy to see you all here. OG Prophet of Doom and Reverend Ranger Dennis Weimer on board. How's Mom, man? Give her a hug for me if she's around. I would certainly appreciate you passing that on. The OG Sinner Sister herself, the Divine Miss Emmy. Happy to see you. Good luck on that interview tomorrow, man. It should be everything that you expect. So remember, it's your expectations that you assign to it. I think you're going to step in. I think you're going to kick ass and you're going to take names. It's just been a while, man. Get in and just be you. I wish you the best of luck, Mama. It's going to be awesome. Lovely Miss Charlie, trying to cheat on being first, but you can't call first from the living room. Sorry, not working out like that. Nice of you to join us, though. We certainly appreciate it. I'll let you guys sift that one out. Let's see who else we got on board, man. Brother Joel Allen Jackson from the Midwest, by the river, by the Ohio River, somewhere in there. Good to see you on board, man. What do you think about that mess in Cincinnati? We will probably touch on that a little bit as we go on. I hadn't set it aside as a bullet point because, again, it's one of those things, man. Decline of Western civilization. How many more ways can you say it? And we all know where it's coming from. And we all know when I say a bad neighborhood, what I mean. When I say a blue city, what I mean. And when I say cultural degeneracy, what I mean. And then it just gets illustrated like that, as it did in Cincinnati last night. Horrible thing to happen. The one and only Bone, Shia Boncha, the mighty, mighty Bone. Good to see you, brother. I'm glad you've been making it back out. Yeah, man, I was a little bit concerned about you, brother. I was, because, been a while, and I'm not used to not seeing you in the background, but I'm happy that things are going okay. I get it, bro. I took a complete break from even doing the sermons for what, better than a month, man, on that last gig. So I get it, but I'm just glad you're around and glad you're still here. Old school, man, brother Roger. Happy birthday to Saul, man. Man, that one always gets me. It will for the rest of my life. Glad you're around for those times, brother, and I'm glad that you're still around, man. You have met and exceeded every expectation that we had of you, man. I remember when you were just a kid, bro. You have grown into an exemplary man and an exemplary human being. God bless everything that you do, brother. And I'm glad to embrace you, proud to embrace you as a brother, Roger. It's been a long, long time, brother. Happy to have you as a part of it. It's been an honor and a privilege to witness your growth, man. Speaking of back in the old days, brother Wayne Sharp. Hopefully we'll see your brother out here one of these days, man. I would like to see Mr. Larry drop in if he can make it. Good to see you, man. A lot of people going back to the old days, man. Saul's wiki page is badass. Yeah, man, it does. It goes over his whole. He does have quite the resume. Thing is, man, there were some wrongs with that, but I mean, of course, it's Wikipedia, man. You can't expect that kind of accuracy from anything. So it is what it is. But I'm happy you guys have made it out. A little sip of liquid enthusiasm. What do you say we get this thing started? The Battle Bottle, courtesy of Iron Infidel. This is the greatest piece of kit you will ever keep around. This thing goes with me everywhere. Charlie and anybody else who's around me any considerable length of time will say that. This thing is like glued to me, man. It's like my handgun. I do not leave the house without it. It's just a valuable piece of kit. And they're not even paid sponsors, man. I'm giving them some shout outs here. I know that's a terrible business model, but look, man, I believe in the product. If I believe in something, I'm going to let you know it. You ain't got to pay me to tell you something rocks and something's cool, but but there it is, man. What are you going to do? Let's jump into this thing, shall we? Welcome back on your Sunday. I'm going to go ahead and fade this bumper music out. Again, man, take care of the people that take care of the program. This band, Red Desert, they've been letting us use this bumper music now for over 5 years that we've been doing this thing. And, man, God bless them. They are... and they lived through, being from Minneapolis, they lived through all those riots, man. They lived through the fentanyl Floyd riots. It cost them personally. Everybody lost a little something in those things, but they have been really, really cool. They haven't asked for anything. I bounced it off them early in the history of the sermon. I sent them an email and, we chatted online a little bit. It's like, hey, man, here's the thing. It's pretty politically charged. If you don't want your music tied to this, and I'll find something else. And they've been cool. So download some of their music, buy some of their merch. They're a pretty kick-ass band, man. Little gut stomping rock and roll band. I don't get into set tripping about what, that's not technically doom, bro. That's like stoner. And really it's more fuzz than stoner, man. It's not even quite like stoner, and it's not like psychedelic stoner fuzz, but it's definitely like doom, bro. Shut up. Just shut up, okay? I'm reminded of Lemmy. Was he hardcore punk? Was he heavy metal? Was he speed metal? Was he thrash metal? We are Motorhead. We play rock and roll. There you go. So, gut stomping rock and roll band from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Red Desert. They have been really, really cool in letting us use that bumper music for 5 years, man. Good God, we've really been doing this for 5 years. That's crazy. Chantal is there as well. Dude, pass along my love. Please pass it. Glad, man. Really happy, man. Really happy. Now you get to expose her to what kind of bizarre friends you really have. I hope it doesn't come as too terrible a shock. I will not be responsible. I will not be responsible for shattering whatever image Chantal may be holding of you right now. Yeah, so. Not safe for work, boys and girls. Anyway, speaking of rock and roll figures, man, I got to take a moment here to acknowledge the passing of the one and only Ozzy Osbourne, passing away this week. You want to talk about a storybook ending to a storybook life, bro. An absolute rock and roll legend. They put that last tribute concert together, and all of those bands. And let's just say it, man, rock and roll and heavy metal in particular, as we know it today, would not exist without Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. That guy lived a life that is so enviable. This man died with a million stories, man, and left an impact that is going to have residual ramifications for generations. Ozzy is the kind of person that people are going to be talking about in history books, you know, for the era when they talk about music, when they talk about debauched excesses of celebrities, when they talk about the madness of of heavy metal. They'll be talking about Ozzy for a long time. You guys have heard this before. Stone, if you're here, I said it for Harold's funeral. I said it at Saul's funeral that, you know, there's an old Viking belief that there are two times that a man dies. One is when he draws his last breath, and the second time is the last time his name is spoken by a living person in reference. Bearing that in mind, by those standards, Ozzy is going to be around for a long, long time. Very sad to see him pass, but he went out with no regrets. The only thing that broke my heart, the only thing that really, really broke my heart, and I'm not even gonna bash Sharon right this minute because it's just not the time. I've gone on how I consistently and still do place her as the most egregious case of elder abuse, short of now Jill Biden. Um, but my God, man, you could have let the man stand up. You could have let the man stand up. And you guys find it, you know, when he's right at the end where Tony Iommi is walking over to him, and you know, you look at him, and he's yelling something, and you're thinking, okay, well, you know, dementia, whatever, and they went back and they looked, and you see what he's saying. He's like, let me stand. Let me stand. And I understand why they kept him seated through that whole thing. Parkinson's taking its toll. The guy could barely walk. You know, it was everything that he could do to stand for any length of time. But that one thing that he wanted, just that one last time, for somebody to help him up so he could stand in front of his fans. You know, that was kind of heartbreaking. But if that was the only regret that you died with, brother, go with God. Go with God, because you were truly blessed. And this is as far as I'm going on the issue, because I've already said what I had to say publicly. For all his Prince of Darkness theatrics, I want you to go back and listen to the lyrics of After Forever. Okay? If you want to look, man, I'm not even going to get into the theological discussion of once saved, always saved, and you know, where was he at when he died? Did he, you know, all the other, I'm not going to get into it. That's between him and the boss man. That's between him and the carpenter. But when I think about it, I look back at the lyrics to After Forever, and I'm like, and that was a Sabbath year. That's on the Master of Reality album. I look back at After Forever. You read the lyrics to that, and you tell me, all right? But again, it's between him and the boss man, him and the carpenter. All I can speak to is what he did here in this life. And as a young metalhead growing up in rural North Carolina, I got to tell you, he's had an impact on me. I was fortunate to see him play live, you know, on more than one occasion. Um, Man, Ozzy, what more can you say? So rest in peace, Mr. Osborne. And just for the wrestling fans who happen to be here, Hulk Hogan as well. I wasn't. I was a big pro wrestling fan when I was a kid, like like third, fourth, fifth grade kid. My son Austin, tremendous fan of pro wrestling. Hulk made an impact as well. He had a hell of an impact. And speaking of how the media just tears people to pieces, man, we talk about that Gawker article and the video that they released and all the things that they put that man through. I don't want to think about any of that. I want to think about the joy that he brought into the hearts of his fans, and I want to think about him as a man of faith, right? How important that faith was to him later in life, coming back to it, being quite public about it, being quite public about where he went to church And everybody was like, dude, man, I remember Rogan, I think it was Rogan that he was interviewing with, was like, you're really going to say where your church is, man? You're not afraid of everybody just like showing up? He was like, nah, man, of course, it's what we want. We want people to, we want people to show up, bring them on in. Because the more people we bring in, the more people we can bring to the Lord. I think it's fantastic. So God bless you, Hulk Hogan. And that's where we're at. And just as a total side note, only because it was the most bizarre thing, I'm I'm walking through. If you guys know like old school punk, right? New York Dolls, David Johansen of the New York Dolls also passed, and it was the damnedest thing, man. Because later he did that little one-off. Um, it's almost like a parody thing that he did, Buster Poindexter, right? That hot, hot, hot song that everybody remembers. I heard this song at HEB, like walking through an HEB the other night, and I heard this song, and I hadn't heard it in probably, good Lord, 10, 15 years, I guess. And I was like, wow, man, there's one I hadn't heard of. And I started remembering like interviews that I've read with the guy. Fascinating dude. I get home that night and I found out that probably within an hour of when I was hearing that song at HEB that Johansson passed. So rest in peace to David Johansen and the New York Dolls as well. But you guys did not show up to go over dead celebrities or anything like that. You got to see Ozzy play at the Summit. Wow, Alice in Chains opened for him. Wow, legit, man. I remember Metallica opening for him at the old Charlotte Coliseum back in the 80s on the Master of Puppets tour, just a few months before Cliff Burton was killed in that tragic bus accident. I got to see him at Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion when he came through. They did that last Black Sabbath tour where they came through and did that stuff, and that was a good show. I was feeling terrible for Ozzy, man, because you could see he was just gone. Oh man, he was just so far gone. He had a teleprompter for the lyrics, and he was just completely out of his head. And Sharon kept pushing him out there night after night. Go make those millions, Ozzy. Who's going to pay for me when you're dead? I'm sorry. I promised I wasn't going to do that. In the good spirit of Christian grace and forgiveness, man, I hope that God is with Sharon and that entire family going through that. All right, let's get the sponsor shout outs going because you guys didn't come to talk about dead celebrities. First of all, one of my oldest and dearest friends, Roman, and his lovely wife, Carrie, and of course, the rest of these beautiful women, bevy of beautiful women over at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. And over at opiumtales.com, not only do you have outstanding watercolor work of beautiful naked women, but you've also got testosterone driven commentary. On Planet Bart, we call that a trifecta. That's right. So bring it on home. And remember, take care of the people who are taking care of the program. Roman Riva on Amazon, right? I think he's pulled his first work from Dork to Pimp Daddy. He's pulled that one, but he's got Roman Freely, which is a collection of his watercolor work. That's all available now on Amazon under Roman Riva, and he's also doing short fiction. So go pick up some of that stuff, man. Understand why the guy is a creative force to be reckoned with, and understand why we have been friends for as many years as we have. Take care of the people that are taking care of the program. That is Roman Riva over at opiumtales.com and on Amazon. Go check them out. And also, my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison, over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. If you are in the Inland Northwest, there is no substitute. They are the only legit barbecue. End of statement, period, finished, done. Shut up, no more, sit down, you're wrong. Take a walk, Sparky. I said what I said. They have it might have been a bit much. They have the Viking Longship sailing the asphalt seas, man, that big old smoker trailer. And they are doing catering events, and they are setting up in parking lots and places and selling until they run out of food. Dusty is the pit master over there. Casey shows up occasionally now, but Casey has moved on. He has passed the bar and is a practicing attorney now. You may want to look into his law practice if you wind up in some difficulties and you happen to live in the Spokane area. I know I've got him on retainer, so that should tell you something. But in any case, he's got a book on Amazon too. It is a combat memoir that started off as a suicide note. No, I'm not making that up. Legit. This book started as a suicide note, and that book is called Freaks of a Feather. It is available. Look it up. Casey Tellison, Freaks of a Feather, published by Latah Press out of Spokane, Washington. That is available on Amazon as well. Bro, he's got a gift. Phenomenally gifted writer. He will pull you into that inner landscape and take you for a walk. And when you think about the subject matter that you're looking at from his tours in the sandbox as a saw gunner, man, with the Corps, of course, Marine, Semper Fi, um, man, it's heavy. It is very, very heavy. It will take you to some places. So I encourage you to go to those places, pick up the book, take care of the people that are taking care of the program. Appreciate all y'all. So, which bullet point shall we pick up to start with? You know what? Let's go ahead since we're here. Uh, we'll go last. We'll go last one first. The importance of Tulsi. Okay, you guys have been following, and you guys know that I've been a fan of Tulsi Gabbard when she was still a Democrat. I was a fan of Tulsi Gabbard before she had that moment on the stage at the debate where she dismantled Kamala Harris. She's just always been an amazing spirit, just an amazing personality. The fact that she was a veteran of multiple combat deployments, the fact that she was, you know, libertarian minded, left leaning libertarian, but she wasn't hardcore leftist orthodoxy. She was, center left. I did not like her positions on gun control. I did not like her positions on a couple of other major issues. But I take the totality of a person into consideration. And I always had a soft spot for Tulsi. She, let alone, man, she's in amazing shape. She's a competitive shooter. She's dropped dead hot. But I've always had a soft spot for the woman, ideologically speaking, because I knew that if I'm hearing Tulsi Gabbard say something, no matter what conclusion she came to, and you've heard me stress the importance of this before, no matter what conclusion she came to, I know that she came to that conclusion honestly through her own assessment of the relevant facts, and she processed it through that pretty little head, and she spewed whatever she was genuinely thinking about that. Not playing to a crowd, not playing for the sake of the electorate, not playing for the sake of what the polls were going to say, and certainly not playing to the media, right? However, the media loved her. They were supposed to because she's a Democrat. That's how it works. And they fawned all over her the same way they used to do with Elon, right? The same way they used to do with RFK, the same way they used to do with any number of folks, the same way that they do now that they would cease to do if any of the current branch were to break ranks. Look what they did to John Fetterman, right? Terrible people. Fetterman was legit brain damaged when he ran for office. I made more than my fair share of mockery of Mr. John Fetterman. I'm somewhat regretful for that now. Not for the fact that he's come around, but just I was taking cheap shots. I was taking cheap shots, and I didn't even do that for Biden, really. You can make acknowledgments that the guy is processing some lack of mental faculty without having to take the cheap shots, and I did, and it was pretty shitty. It was pretty shitty, and I would like to publicly apologize for that. But he was legitimately brain damaged when he was running for office. I mean, to the point of Biden, if not worse. He was still recovering from a stroke. He had no business being in that race. None, right? In the same sense that Biden had no business being in the White House, even as a figurehead, even if he wasn't making the decisions. Do you understand? But they ran him, and the media loved him. They adored him. They ran cover for the mental thing. Oh, the mental thing's not that bad. Oh, anyone can slip. And then, of course, the ultimate, the final fallback, as they did with Biden. Oh, you're a terrible person for making fun of him. He's overcoming some really, really monumental things here, and you're just a terrible person for taking cheap shots out. You know what? You're right. I'm a shitty person for taking those cheap shots. You're absolutely right. What happened when he broke from the orthodoxy? Well, we really need to be concerned about his mental health. When they started talking about his depression, that's when I got worried. Because what better way to set up someone to be suicided, right? But suddenly, now that he's broken with the orthodoxy, now Now, all of a sudden, it's a big issue. His mental health. We have to be concerned about his mental faculties fading and everything. When, in fact, if you look at interviews, you can pull this up because the internet is forever. Interviews with him from back then when they were running him for office and interviews now, it's like night and day. He's sharper now than he's ever been. Unlike Biden, he's sharper now, Fetterman is, than he's ever been. And all we hear is his mental faculties are fading. We have concerns for his mental health. We think he's, this, that, and the other thing. That was a tangent. But they've done the same thing with Tulsi. I either dig what you have going on or I do not dig what you have going on. I don't care that you're a Democrat. I don't care that you're a traditional liberal. If you're a hardcore leftist, that's a different ballgame. I'm glad, James, may you rest in peace, brother. Even if you are a hardcore leftist, in fact, a communist, right? I had a dear friend of mine, James Raines. He was probably my most valued intellectual sparring partner, right? Because he was polar opposite, like avowed communist. But the political positions that he took based on his own analysis, however errant, and he could defend it articulately. I cannot tell you the number of times we would debate tenaciously for hours, face to face. And then later on the internet, he was a true believer. And he came to his conclusions honestly. It was the rarest of things. And I did not care that he was a communist. I did not care about his leftist ideology whatsoever. I cared about his intellect and I cared about his capacity to be a human being. Now, I can feel that way about him, the cause that he took up. Ultimately, those people, the left being what they are, it's almost shameful. It feels like I won the argument in the worst possible way because the political left bled him out, sapped him for everything that he was worth as an activist, as an organizer, as a writer, as a content producer, sapped him for everything he was worth, and then dropped him like a hot rock, just left him after he had sacrificed literally everything for the party. He wound up hanging himself. It was a weird little insight that just came to me. It's almost like, well, James, I told you what they were about. I won the argument in the worst possible way. Damn. The hell was I even talking about? Yes, leftist orthodoxy. Tulsi Gabbard. Sorry, man. No, I'm not sorry. Because that's what this is about. I want to communicate with you guys. I've got stuff that I want to cover. I've got stuff that I want to talk about. But I want this to feel like we're having a conversation. Because I don't get to converse with a lot of y'all face to face. I don't get to see y'all, man. I don't get to talk on the telephone with y'all as often as I could, as often as I should, more to the point. I've been trying to be better about that. Make phone calls, get in touch with people. But I want this to be genuine. So the fact that I went off on that tangent and had that little personal moment, and you guys I'm not sorry about that. Leftist orthodoxy and Tulsi Gabbard. I have always respected Tulsi. I've always respected anyone who is coming to their own conclusions. I either dig what you have going on or I don't. I've always liked Elon. Even when he was a darling of the left, I loved Elon Musk. I've always liked Tulsi Gabbard. Even when she was a rising Democratic star, I've always liked the woman. You guys can go back. They hadn't nuked my account. It's another thing I'm upset about, them nuking my Facebook and my Instagram accounts, because there was the record. You want to know where I've been on anything? You want to know the fact that I've never wavered? Just go back, because it's all there. It's all there. I've never wavered on that. Always liked Elon, always liked Tulsi. Ever since she dismantled Kamala, they tried to whip her back into line, calling her a Russian asset and having Hillary say all these things. And it's like, you better get your ass back in line and stay in your lane. And Tulsi wasn't having it. Another one of the reasons I respect the woman. They put her on a no-fly list. Can you imagine that? Just as a punitive measure. A list of people of interest that you're supposed to spy on and keep a closer eye on and do a more thorough search of their backs. How petty is that? Because she had the audacity to be an apostate. The importance of Tulsi's rise is that it has been organic. There are people. I didn't see George when we were doing the roll call. I didn't see George. I didn't see Oksana either, who had their doubts. Who had their doubts about shows rolling. I'm sorry, I'm late. Can you start over? Joey, the Sultan of Sarcasm. Glad you made it out. I'm sorry, I'm late watching it. Have you tried restarting? That's happened to me before. Holy crap. I've been thinking he was late. All right. So am I having like some difficulties? Oh, okay, Jude. Hey, glad you made it out. Brother Jude, a little further west of me in Texas. The importance of her ascent is that it's happened organically. A lot of the people who are coming around to the party that identifies as Republican are like former Democrats that are basically just saying, "Hey, you guys are batshit. You guys have completely lost the plot. We're going in a different direction. This is what is in line with the American electorate." That is the power of populism, man, and it's happened organically. And now here she is going forward with this Russiagate thing. Folks, let me just be blunt. We need arrests. We need arrests. We need perp walks, and we need files released. We need it. Okay? It does not make me a bad person to acknowledge that the Mango Mussolini is the most consequential president in my entire adult life. It doesn't make me a bad person to acknowledge that the man is doing a phenomenal job, that the economy is booming, that everything is on track, and that if Jerome Powell would just get the hell out of the way, we would see an economic renaissance, the likes of which hasn't been experienced since, well, the 1930s in Germany, since they're all so quick to draw that parallel. It doesn't make me a bad person to acknowledge the amazing job that he's doing while still saying, this is bad. This is very, very bad. The optics of this are terrible. Fix it. And to say to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and Dan, I saw your tweet. Still a big fan, Mr. Bongino, saw your tweet. That you'll never be the same after what you've seen. Brother, if you're telling me that you, with access to everything that you have access to, are seeing something that after you've seen it, you will never be the same, if that isn't followed by arrests, then the populist energy that swept you people in is going to sweep you right the hell back out. And it should. And I will not sit here and be told, yeah, but we've got to keep, we can't take the risk right now because what if the Democrat, I don't care. Do you understand? I can acknowledge the terrifying prospect of leftists coming back to power. I can acknowledge the phenomenal job that Donald Trump is doing and still be able to say Bondi screwed up. Still be able to say there are people, and look, I could spend a whole hour, and maybe next week I should, going over all the intricacies of this, what I believe about this versus what I do not believe about this. Regardless, this wave of populism came about honestly, the same way Tulsi's transition to this political position came honestly. All of these people that have come to this way of thinking, we all got here honestly, looking at the way things were going and going, dude, this isn't going to work. We have placed a lot of faith, and this was a mistake, okay? Placing faith in people. But we had to trust that what they were bringing us was going to be better than what we were walking away from. And it has been, universally. I will say that absolutely and without equivocation. There is nothing that this administration has done that has been to the detriment of the United States people, that has been to the detriment of the American people. The tariffs that were going to be the end of the world wound up paying off. Everything that we were told was going to be the end of the world is doing phenomenally well. The stock market took a dip. Oh, it's the end of the world. See, told you it's all going to hell in a handbasket. And now it's back up to record levels. Job growth above board. Inflation below expectations. Speaking purely on a political and policy level, this administration has been an unmitigated success. It doesn't make me a bad person to be able to say that and still acknowledge that what I will say with reasonable confidence is a foreign intelligence operation that involved pedophiles and blackmail isn't being opened. That they are legitimately protecting very, very bad people. I can acknowledge both things. And I'm going to take a big risk here, but you guys know I'm going to call it like I see it. If I had known that this was going to be the final outcome, that those files were not going to be released, I still would have voted for Trump. Not because I am a Trump cultist, but because the alternative, well, we had 4 years of watching what the alternative was. The same advisors would have been making the call. And now every one of those advisors is getting put on blast. I think it's safe to say that, okay, let me just finish out that. Let me finish out the point on Trump real quick, and we'll address it maybe next week in a little more detail. This looks horrible. Fix it. Release the damn files, or let it stain your reputation. Let it be a blood stain on everybody who put their faith into you. The lesson that I'm taking from it isn't, don't put your faith in Republicans, or don't put the faith. It's a lesson that we all should have already known. You don't put your faith in men. You put your faith in track records. You put your faith in results. As far as track records and results are concerned, he's come through beautifully. that doesn't make it any less wrong if in fact it is what it looks like. And right now what it looks like is that he is business as usual as far as protecting very, very bad people. I can't countenance that. I can't countenance that. If he is not willing, now that Tulsi has stepped out front and said, here it is, now that Bongino has said, I have been made privy to intelligence reports that were classified, that I will never be the same. If we don't step up and make arrests, if people don't at least go to trial for this, you can't guarantee a conviction. But if people don't at least go to trial for this, then I'm going to have to concede, as I told y'all that I would. When I was begging and pleading with y'all to come to the polls in 2020, I said, just this. And if this doesn't work, you'll never hear from me again. I will publicly renounce the whole electoral process. I will never step in a ballot box again. All of it. That was the word that I gave y'all. So yeah, I've got kind of an intellectual vested interest in this, at least. If no arrests get made, if no one goes to jail for these things, then what's the point? Tulsi had this completely organic, completely natural, on its own time awakening, came over to the center, leaned further to the right, saw what was going on, saw the side that she had given her life and her devotion to turn on her as an apostate, and she has come around to this position, and she has put her ass where her rhetoric is. She has stepped out in front and said, oh, your mulatto messiah who was untouchable, who we can't say anything bad about no matter what. He's a cutthroat, waste of flesh human being who engaged in active treason and active undermining of a sitting U.S. president in defiance of the will of the American people. She stepped out and did that. That is her importance. If the rest of the so-called men in the party can't find their spines and let their balls drop after she stepped out like that and put everything on the line like that, I'm walking away. I'm walking away. Not just from the party, but from the electoral process, period. Period. So GOP, how about we step up? How about after all the griping I've heard for 4 years of these specious BS lawsuits, of them arresting an ex-president, of them storming into the residence of an ex-president on specious BS charges, bringing him up on the 34 felonies, man, 34 times convicted felon, man, that are all going to be overturned on appeal. They locked up grandmothers that walked across imaginary lines, held them for years on misdemeanor charges in horrible conditions. They tracked people responsible for the demonstration on January 6th to the ends of the earth. They tracked these freaking people. They imprisoned them. Pro-life advocates. One man who had the temerity to push a pro-abortion protester who was assaulting his 13-year-old son, and they locked him up, felony charges. You want to talk about the weaponization of a Justice Department? Everything that was done under Merrick Garland's DOJ was weaponized. I'm tired of hearing excuses. I don't want to hear about the moral high ground. I don't want to hear about taking the high road. I don't want to hear about, well, the optics of putting someone in hand. I don't want to hear any of that. We've stepped up on some very, very important levels, one of which I'm getting ready to discuss is the next bullet point. The ICE raids, the deportations, shutting the damn border down. Thank you. Great job. They have stepped up on ending regulations. They have stepped up on necessary executive orders to pull DEI out of programs. They have stepped up on necessary things to pull waste and fraud out of government, even though they didn't follow Elon's lead. And I'm going to do a whole sermon on that one. That is going to go down as the single biggest mistake of any administration in history, doing what they did to Elon. They've done phenomenal jobs on a whole lot of fronts. I am not ungrateful. But the difference between a supporter and a cultist is that a supporter will go, hey, man, great job, but. Whereas a cultist will look at me saying but and call me a freaking apostate. I ain't trying to hear it. So Tulsi Gabbard, I thank God for you. I absolutely and without equivocation thank God for Miss Tulsi Gabbard. I'm thankful that she came to the realizations that she did. I am thankful that her life has followed the arc that it has. I am thankful for who she is as a human being, her guts, her tenacity, and her honesty. And her passion for principle above party. It is the rarest of things in American politics. God bless you, Tulsi Gabbard. It has been an honor and a privilege to watch your walk all along the way. And now that we're in the home stretch, well, we're going to see who's carrying the balls for the Republican Party. Because right now, fellas, this biological female is showing more testicular fortitude than any 5 of you. God bless her for that. Keep doing what you're doing, Tulsi. The electorate has your back. History has your back. And considering the evil of the people that you're stepping to, I see the Carpenter's got your back too. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Let's move on. Shall we? I would have voted for him. What is this, Roman? I would have voted for him simply because I'm middle class and I understand economics. You can't keep working middle class jobs to non-Americans. Thank you very much. Again, he's another one of those things where he's done a fine job. One of the places where I disagreed with Elon was that H-1B visa thing. Him and Vivek can go to hell on that one. No more, man. No more. I did a whole sermon on that. This country and the West is under siege. If you're still listening, if you are here and you're listening for the first time, well, hi, welcome. Good that we know where we stand. But if you've been following the sermon for any length of time, you know where I'm at on that. The West is under siege. Do you really think that, yes, West, look, let me get some things out of the way just so we understand each other. Western civilization is under cultural assault. Cultural and physical assault. The United States of America is the last solid bastion of Western civilization as we know it. The side note being that Vladimir Putin's Russia carries more integrity for what is understood as Western cultural values than the West does. But just for politics as we understand it, we're it, the United States. As such, another truth that we need to get our heads around, Culturally, the United States is under assault, not just from our adversaries without, talking about the Chinese Communist Party, the Muslim world, globalists, and high positions. You guys notice Ephesians 6:12 in the background. Yeah, that banner's still there. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities that sometimes manifest as flesh and blood. The West is under assault. America is under assault. And the worst of that assault is coming from people within the United States. People whose cushy, pampered existence is only allowable by the fact that the West exists. The very civilization that is responsible for their pampered existence, they seek to undermine and destroy, because like all the other people in the party, they think that on the other side of the revolution, they're going to be part of the elite class and not lined up against the wall and shot as reactionaries, counterinsurgents, what have you. They think it's all just going to be poetry after that, right? The West is under assault. America is under assault. Brace yourselves, because this one's politically uncomfortable. White European blood is under assault. Did he just say he hates black people? No. Let me agree. White European blood is under assault. Did he just say that he wants to kill 6 million Jews? Look at me. White European blood is under assault. He hates people from other races. He's a bigot. He's a fascist. No. Stop. Come here, Sparky. Come here. Shh. White European blood is under assault. It's pretty simple. All those other things, fabrications of your imagination that you imagine are tied to the previous statement. None of them are. An active campaign exists on a dozen fronts that would love to see the elimination of white European blood. Whether that is because it is white and European is probably less a factor than the fact that we are tied to this civilization that we have created, that Western civilization that we have created. But because it was our blood and our culture and our people that created that, what better way to destroy that than by undermining and destroying the people that created it? If you wanted to undermine and destroy African culture, what would be the most efficient way to do it? If a certain German with a funny mustache in the 1930s wanted to undermine and destroy Jewish culture, what do you think would be the most efficient way to do that? Yeah. If I wanted to say that Chinese culture troubles me, do I undermine the cultural elements by deriding their food and making fun of their garments and screwing with their politics? No, you eliminate the people who built the culture. If the culture is what you choose to destroy, you kill the people that created that culture, and that culture is eradicated from the face of the planet. So one more time for those in the back, white European blood is under assault. That's it. No dog whistles, no coded speech. I said what I said. We all good? Cool. Let's move on. We have to step up. We are at an historical inflection point where we either step up or we lose it all. Nothing less is at stake. So forgive me if I have less than a tremendous sense of humor about these things. Okay? I mean, we can laugh, we can joke, and we can have discussions, but please understand, that what we're all representing here is the very future of Western civilization. And the fact that if Western civilization dies off the face of the earth, that humanity isn't going to be far behind. And what humanity will have to deal with in the absence of Western civilization is something that is darker than most humans walking the planet today are really, really, really going to want to cope with. It's a pretty terrifying prospect. But you know what? We could do a whole sermon on that. Guys that go to talk about it. What's the next bullet point? Cultural. The ice pushback in the Cold Civil War. Let's jump into that one since we're here. The fate of the West is at stake. The fate of America is at stake. People have divided into two camps ideologically, and it's cute and funny to watch people go back and forth, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, this, that, and the other thing. Because right now, or up until now, rather, the stakes haven't been this high. Now they are. If one side wins, Western civilization dies. Am I being hyperbolic? Not in the least. We have faced this threat before. The United States has faced this threat in one way or another pretty much since the Bolshevik Revolution, 1917. There are people within the United States that want to see the fall of the United States. There are people in the United States that want to see the dismantling of Western civilization, colonialism, and all the evils of colonialism. They want to see it undermined. They want to see it destroyed. They want to see white people dead. If you're going to destroy a culture, you destroy the culture's people, you destroy the people that created that culture. You can destroy the culture pretty effectively if you dilute and demean and deride that culture from the inside out. We are a nation of immigrants. Up until the 1920s, 90% of all immigration into the United States came from 3 countries. What are those countries, guys? We've done this question before. Somebody got to pony up. 90% of immigrants up until the 1920s came from one of 3 countries, and those countries were England, Ireland, Germany. In the 1930s, we started getting more Italians. Thank you, Roman. In the 1930s, we started getting more Italians. We started getting more Russians. All of these have been tremendous contributors, but you have to understand that they were all united by one single factor, and that is culture. Russians being somewhat different. The Eastern European immigrants that started coming over in the 1930s, not just the Russians, culturally somewhat different, but largely united by what? By a common faith. Christianity, Catholicism, united by a common faith. All the same. Ooh, there's that R word, race. It is a factor. You don't have to hate anyone over that, nor should you. But to deny that it is a factor is just dishonest. And as you may have noticed, I don't do that. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care that you're going to pull some soundbite and go, you remember back on this one when you said such and such? Yes, let's play the whole clip. These are hills that I'm willing to die on. And the rate things are going, may have to. In 1965, they switched everything up. In 1965, they switched everything up. They put a cap on the number of Western European and Northern European immigrants that we could accept. And they started flooding us with the third world. Well, aren't we all the same? No, we're not. We need to get our heads around that as well. Culturally, we are not compatible with West Africa. Culturally, we are not compatible with the Muslim world. And if you hadn't noticed, our neighbors to the south aren't so much like their Spanish progeny, their Spanish ancestors. Not really a whole lot culturally. They don't do so well with that. So you flood a developed Western nation with the third world, and what do you think is going to happen? And that developed Western nation and the people who have assimilated to it all feel the same. Do you understand? You try to stir up hatred between working class whites and working class blacks, but working class whites and working class blacks aren't having it. Why? Because we have more in common than anybody that you brought over from the third world. For those from Mexico and from Central and South America that have come over here and assimilated, you will find no finer group of people on the planet. No more hardworking group of people, no more solid family-oriented people of faith. But what we're being flooded with now is not that. And that's not even taking into account fifth-generation warfare. Went over briefly last week how there were any number of districts along our southern border that were seeing whole months where ICE agents were having more contacts with Chinese than they were with Mexicans. China is not the kind of place you get to just leave if you don't like living there. Single military age males. And I know you're sitting there thinking, oh, and I will take everything you got to say about tinfoil hat and everything else. Yes, just a monumental conspiracy theory. And every single facet of this keeps being proven true on a daily basis. Everything that you believe about immigration is a lie. And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry that you were misinformed. I'm sorry that everything they told you about nation of immigrants and melting pots left out some very, very key details. But now we are looking at a Somalian Muslim communist about to be elected to be the mayor of Minneapolis, a city that was just on fire because of leftist agitators after a fentanyl addict died in the middle of his arrest. Sorry, but I'm not willing to discuss these things with y'all anymore. I'm just not. This is how it is. If you disagree, you're entitled to be wrong, Sparky. I'm good with that. Just don't talk to me about it, please. You're not intelligent enough to utter so much as a grunt in my presence. I'd prefer that you just move on. Yes, it is undermining the solidarity of the nation. It's tearing us apart from the inside. Yes. Every one of these people who are here illegally has to go. Period. End of statement. Done. I don't care that they've been here for 20 years. But he's been here for 20 years. Of all of the spare Jose arguments that I get, that one is probably the least convincing. Oh, he's been here for 20 years. And in 20 years, it didn't occur to him that, hey, maybe now that I've taken advantage of everything that this country offers and gotten myself in pretty good order, that, let's go ahead and get my paperwork taken care of, right? Let me break it down for you like this. I'm here in the next couple of months, I'm going to have to renew my crane operator cert. Yeah? Let's say that for whatever reason, I didn't renew it. Okay? Let's say that I didn't renew it. And I go on and I work crane jobs and I just work, I go for 10 years. Just flashing them my old card. Nobody really checks. And then I'm up on a job site. I started saying something bad happens. Nothing bad happens. I'm just on the job site one day and they come around checking and they find out that I've been in this seat for 6 months on this job and worked 3 years of crane work before that with an expired NCO card. Do you think there's going to be a whole lot of push to go, well, yeah, but gosh, he's been here so long. Just let him keep working. No. I'm leaving aside the cultural incompatibility. I'm leaving aside the criminality, the violent criminality in particular. Everything that you think you know about that is incorrect as well. Illegal immigrants commit less violent crime than people who are born here in the United States. Absolute bullshit statistic. Why? Because the largest concentrations of these illegal immigrants that are committing violent crimes is where? Where are most violent crimes committed? Big cities, right? The top 3 cities in the United States, New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, they do not report their statistics to the FBI at all. Oh, but it gets better. They all happen to be what? New York, Chicago, Los Angeles are what? Sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities aren't allowed to ask your citizenship status at the point of arrest. So that's a bullshit statistic. And I'm not going to pull the Orwell thing where we ignore the evidence of our own eyes and ears. We see it every day. ICE is doing a damn fine job. God bless them. However, there has been pushback. Every legal pushback that they've had so far has failed pretty much. Abrego Garcia being one of the notable exceptions. But this is the thing. Politically, it looks terrible. The left is constantly having to defend scumbags. Alligator Alcatraz, that's a big hit. You talk to a plurality of Latinos who are here legally, feel the same way that they did about the mass deportations. They want them gone too. We are seeing pushback. Who is the pushback coming from? The pushback is coming from white college-educated liberals. Where it is not the people that aren't white college-educated liberals that show up to these demonstrations are the very people that we need to get the hell out of here. Because if your allegiance is not to the United States of America, get to stepping. I don't care. I just don't care anymore. This pushback that is coming, and now it's getting violent. Almost every week now, we have at least 1 or 2 incidents of people who are physically attacking, and sometimes with weapons, ICE officers, in the course of doing their duty. This cannot stand. It will not stand. And again, my plea to the Trump administration is put them down. Put them down the same way you would a rabid dog. The American people are behind you in this effort. Do you understand? Survey after survey, no matter how they word the question, it doesn't matter. No matter how hard they push, survey after survey comes back consistently. Better than half of legal Mexicans are still in favor of mass deportation. Still in favor of camps like Alligator Alcatraz. The people, the American people, are behind you on this. Put them down. Get them out. Because they are demonstrating the very reason why they are an existential threat to the West. If it comes down to a clash of civilizations, they are showing right now which side of that clash they're going to be on. Is that who you want getting your back? Is that who you want living next door to you? Someone who, when it comes down to it, everyone else is allowed to be tribal. Do you understand how this works? Why don't you ask a Rhodesian farmer how that works out? That's what's living next door to you now. If their allegiance is not to the United States, they need to be gone. Simple as that. Because it's no longer something that we can risk. The first shots are being fired right now. Up in the Pacific Northwest, It is amazing how in a region that is over 90% white, you can see so many people who hate themselves and their culture that freaking much. Unbelievable. But you know what? I'm going to suggest this to the administration. Trump, if you want to look for a place to put down, right? If you want to look for a test case in places to bring down that hammer really hard, start in Portland. You understand? Start in Portland. Why Portland? Because it's 90% white. You drop that hammer the first time in Portland. You drop that hammer the first time in Los Angeles, and 20 or 30 Mexicans get shot up. The optics of that all over the country, mainstream media, and anyone who still has allegiances to the place that they just fled are really going to be upset that 20 or 30 Mexicans got shot. If you hadn't noticed, nobody cares about Whitey getting shot anymore. We're going to use their own ethic against them. You bring down the hammer hard in Portland, Oregon, and if 20 or 30 white boys get shot up, leftist white boys, Antifa maggots, that's just dead white people. Nobody cares. Trust me on this one. Y'all hadn't thought about it like that, had you? So from me to you, Mango Mussolini, from me to you, do it. Bring down that hammer, man. But it's got to be part of a systematic effort. Tulsi needs to put all the goods out there. The DOJ needs to put these cases together. They need to make arrests, and they need to start prosecuting people. In the street, they need to double up on the amount, and apparently in the big beautiful bill, that's what it calls for, and that's what it's funded. They need to put twice the number of ICE agents on the street. You understand we have to get 8,000 a day out of here just to break even with what Biden allowed in? Do you understand that? 8,000 a day. We need to double up on who we got in the street. We need to double up on the amount. Ryan, I hope you caught that point of why he needs to read. You know what? I'm going to repeat that point just for Ryan. Need to double up on the agents of the street. They need to gather them. They need to run them the hell out. Most Ricky Tick. Lock them down. Get them out. Just that quick. They need to bring it down. They need to bring it down hard. If not, after the midterms, we're dead in the water. Do you understand? You made a lot of big promises. We've got the goods. You got the will of the American people behind you. Ryan, the thing I'm going to repeat here is for the test case, because sooner or later they're going to have to bring down the hammer, right? Because all these people at these protests against ICE are like pushing back, right? Sooner or later, they're going to have to bring down the hammer. They're going to have to crack some skulls. They might have to put some bullets in some people, right? So, Ryan, my supposition is if they're going to do that, the place they need to do it is Portland. Why Portland? I'll repeat this for everybody who's here. Why Portland? Because if you do it in Los Angeles and say some guns go off, 20 or 30 people get shot, the majority of those people that are going to get shot are going to be Mexican. And then it turns into, oh, my God, racist. We knew it. Okay. By the left's own admission, nobody cares about dead white people. So if you're going to bring down the hammer, Ryan, see if you're with me on this. If you're going to bring down the hammer, that's where you bring it down. You bring it down in Portland. That way, if some people get shot up, 20 or 30, nobody cares about dead whitey. Nobody cares. That's where you do it. That's your test case. See how it works out. Am I kidding? I don't know. Am I? So that's all the heavy stuff that I wanted to cover this week. I appreciate you guys being here for that. Let's get into some items about personal health. I know, brother. I know. Republicans never. Yep, I totally agree. We're talking about possible futures, brother. We're just speculating. That's all we're doing. We're doing what the rest of the world does. Talking about the world that is, and the way and a world that we wish it ought to be. In any case, I am going to talk some good stuff with you guys. One of the good things about the Trump administration, of course, Brian. No, it never is. But I can speak, and I got to spit it because this is the closest I get to therapy. Well, that's not entirely true, but market anyway. Okay, so taking control of your own health. That is one place where, another place where, like Tulsi, the administration made the right move and put the right people in charge. And I'm really, really happy about that, about RFK being a part of this administration. RFK, I love him for the same reasons that my wife and every other member of the medical establishment hates him, because he is able to see the priesthood, quote unquote, for what it is. He is able to see the priesthood for what it is and dismantle it being a heretic, unabashedly heretical. And the things that we are finding out are things that you and I, I'm speaking you and I, all of us here have already known. We have known that there is a link between vaccines and autism. We have known that. That's been debunked. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Nothing sticks in my craw bigger than that. Oh, it's been debunked. No, it hasn't. Show me where it's been debunked. Show me where it's been debunked. The bell curve, right? That's okay. While we're on that particular topic, the bell curve. Well, that book's been totally debunked, bro. Really? Show me where. Oh man, dude, do your own research, bro. Yeah, right. Do your own research. You don't have the files. You don't have the stats. You don't have anything. You can do the intellectual gymnastics, however you want to do it. Doesn't matter. We've known that vaccines cause autism. We've known, you ready for this one? We've known that if you have organ donor checked on your license, that they will begin the steps of the organ harvesting process before you're dead. If that organ is valuable enough, or is going to a person who is valuable enough, that if you got that organ donor, they will stop short of every life-saving measure that they could take, because those organs are worth what? Money. They're behind gender-affirming care because it saves lives. BS. There's not one study, not effing one, that shows it's saving lives. But I tell you what it does show, that a full transition surgery can cost upwards of 80 grand. Not only 80 grand for the transition surgery, but after that surgery, you've got a patient for life. Because no matter which way they're going, from male to female, or female to male, they're going to have to take it, particularly if they're going male to female. Particularly if they're going male to female and they have vaginoplasty, that is a petri dish for the rest of their natural life. They're going to be taking medications for that. They're going to be taking SSRIs. They're going to be taking hormones. All of these are money, 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 money. RFK is not afraid to say so. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care about your emotions. RFK is not afraid to say, yes, we have the actual numbers. Here's the receipts. Autism and vaccines are linked. Thank God. I'm not even a fan of Robert Malone, but he had the good sense to bring in Robert Malone, which, given that he was one of the pioneering researchers of mRNA vaccines in the first freaking place, seems like a logical pick for a team like that. What else is RFK focused on? He's focused on diet. He's focused on living a healthy lifestyle. He's focused on pulling harmful additives. We've known for years that these additives are bad, that they have long-term things that we've known for years. Finally, they're being acknowledged, they're being put into practice. Finally, we have someone who is not a slave to the priesthood and who isn't afraid to be a heretic. Thank God for that. And while we were in this zone, we are still in a position where we are able to make decisions about our own health, including analgesics and anxiolytics. And I'm going to go over some things that happen to be some of my personal favorites. They happen to be some of my personal favorites, which is why I'm going to go over them in the first place. Peptides being number one. Pardon me, folks. Just a second. Doggone it. Oh, yes, I do. Thank you. I knew I had that bottle close. You guys check out the shirt. Fear God, not the government. That's the vibe we're on right now. Currently, we don't have a lot to fear from the government, so that's a damn good thing. Peptides, first and foremost. And I did not bring that bottle of peptides down. I wanted to have that close and available for you. Peptides, guys, are basically, they're like chains of amino acids that are strung together, right? They are synthesized largely. They're going in and clipping little sections of different things, but it's a field of health. And I should, before I get into this, I need to preface this by saying none of what I am about to give you is to be construed as medical advice. I am not a health professional. I am not a doctor. I am not a licensed physician. I am not a pharmacist. I am not tied to the priesthood in any way, shape, or form. What am I? I'm a lab rat. That's what I am. I am a fat, toothless crane operator with some opinions who is a self-inflicted lab rat, right? I'm not going to throw anything out there that I haven't personally experienced, anything that I don't have anything that I don't personally have experience with. And I will advocate for the things that have worked out for me, and I will not advocate for the things that have not worked out for me, and I will tell you why across the board in either set of circumstances. Everything should, yeah, right, thank you, bro science. But he only had a hangnail, right? Oh, dude, I knew Joey was going to have some. I'm sorry, man, we couldn't save your husband. You'll be happy to know that we used his livers and kidneys to prolong the life of George Soros by another 6 months. Oh my God, what's this? Ryan, did hear about the new MMA vac that's curing cancer in lab mice, or so they're saying. You know, I'm not surprised at any of this. Listen, man, the one cool thing about RFK being up there, and we're calling, of course, they're calling him a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. What do we got? Being speculative, can we ponder if I win the lotto and aliens give me a death race in Republic of the Bahamas? Everybody calls RFK a tinfoil hat guy. They call him a conspiracy theorist. Thank God for that. Thank God for that. Because it's only the conspiracy theorists that have the balls in the spine generally to look outside the mainstream narrative. Do you understand? Bro science and all. Unless I break a limb, bro science is better than modern medicine. Thank you. Yeah, before we get into that, Roman, I think that's a perfect preface. You guys may have seen the interview that they did with Dana White about that. And he said, after COVID, man, if I get shot, take me to a hospital, right? If I've got cancer, take me to a hospital. If I break a leg, take me to the hospital. Outside of that, I will never speak to a doctor again as long as I live. He's right. You guys understand that. That fundamental distrust that blue-collar folks with you see those are called calluses? Yeah. The fundamental distrust that people like us have of doctors is well-founded. And thank God we have someone like RFK in there who's there to say, yeah, you guys have been right all along. Not that we didn't know it, right? Thankfully, we got somebody in there who's willing to put it on the line, not going to be like cramped back. Is a conspiracy theorist or a guy who was thank you, because the line in between is just like it is so thin now. Conspiracy theorist or guy who was right all along. Nothing wrong with conspiracy theorists. Asking any question is a good thing. It's when you find data contrary, you keep going down that path that you lose credibility. Again, getting back to the subject of the opener, these people lie to us for decades. And then when we finally start saying, dude, enough, I'm going to go looking outside the box, why don't they trust us anymore? It's a mental illness, man. It's a mental illness. Thank you. Brother Turtle, by the way, thank you. Did not see you during the roll call, but I'm glad you made it in. Doctors' medicine, number 3 cause of death in this country. Thank you very much. That's we used to tell people during COVID, man. I spit something out that has later, of course, been proven true. You're not a doctor. Dude, you're right. If I was a doctor, I'd have way more of a body count. The priesthood is not to be trusted. We are still in a position where you can take your health into your own hands. And here are some things that will boost not only your longevity, because what good is it to pack years into your living if you'd rather just pack more living into your years? Peptides, people, start doing some homework. You guys know that I've had a jacked up lumbar spine for as long as any of you can remember knowing me. You guys know that for years I had a bone on bone hip that was in bad need of replacement. While we're on that, let's go ahead and touch on that. Kratom and related supplements. Do you guys see this? This is EDP. This is what I call truck stop Kratom. Still good, solid product, right? These are 40 milligram. And it's close enough to bedtime that I can take 40 milligrams. What do you guys, let's finish up on peptides before we get to Kratom, okay? Peptides is an emerging field, right? And it's still fairly young when it comes to performance-enhancing drugs. And I'm going to talk about the other big ones before we get out of here. You guys know I'm a big advocate for anabolic steroids. You guys know that I'm a big advocate for psychedelics for consciousness expansion. We're going to touch on all of that in the 20 minutes that we have left. We're going to touch on all of that. Peptides. Each and every one of you need to do your own homework on whether this is a risk that you're willing to take, okay? Understand that these peptides are sold under the label of not for human consumption. They are sold as for research purposes only, right? Under no circumstances should you take these powdered compounds in these little bottles and put an appropriate amount of stat water, bacteriostatic sterile water, into the vials with that powder and roll it between your hands for 30 seconds or so to stir it up, because you don't want to mix it too hard. You should never, ever do that. And if, God forbid, that set of circumstances to happen, you should certainly never draw it up into an insulin syringe and administer it to yourself subcutaneously or intramuscular. That should never, ever, 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 ever happen. And they clearly tell you right there on the website when they're selling you these research chemicals. Now they're going so far as to put on not for human or veterinary use, right? The reason they're doing that is they're starting to give themselves the out to pull it all off the market. Well, we can't sell these chemicals. People are going to use them. No. We put it on the label, not for human use. These are for research purposes only. What other research could you do? Well, we could do in veterinary research. No. That's certainly not safe. It could be cruel. We don't know what we're doing here. We got to put it on the label, not for veterinary use. You understand how they're ramping this up. The thing about the priesthood is the priesthood likes being in control. The priesthood likes being in control of the cures, the treatments, and the methods of administration thereof. They always have. It's always been tinfoil hat to think that there are non-chemical treatments for cancer that actually work. But time after time, that's been proven correct, right? It's only when those treatments fail that we hear about them. Steve Jobs, that's an example that comes to mind. Steve Jobs could have jumped onto chemo and maybe extended his life a few more years if he'd have jumped right into it. Instead, he decided to go the organic route. Ryan and Roman, while I've got you here, go ahead and do some Google work for me while I'm in mid-rant about the Mexican cancer doctor, right? The Mexican cancer doctor with the stellar treatment record that has cured hundreds of people of cancer, right? Guys, while you're here, oh, God, there's another program. Damn it. I should have spent more time in show prep today. I apologize to y'all. Maybe we'll go over this again next Sunday. We'll go a little more in depth over the medical establishment and the priesthood and people who have been deliberately suppressed. Yes, there are a number of hacks out there. There are a number of snake oil salesmen. Always have been, always will be. But there are enough. I will tell you this as a steroid user, and this all gets back around to peptides, okay? Peptides generally are considered a performance enhancing drug. There are any number of peptide compounds that have already been banned by the International Olympic Committee for use in competition. Why? Because they work. How would we know that they work? Well, because somebody violated that whole research purposes only thing. That's how we know. Okay. As a steroid user, beginning in the early 2000s, and guys, I'll tell you, I say off and on, but mostly on anabolic steroids for 26 years. You understand? 26 years. My red cell count is off the charts, but outside of that, I've had no major side effects. Why? Because I get my blood work done, because I'm analytical about the dosages. I wasn't always. In the early days, man. Ryan, why don't you tell him the kind of stacks I used to be on back when we first met? Back when we had our first meeting outside of Lola's and you were looking at that big old swollen vanilla gorilla. It was ridiculous. I had race horses calling me at the house going, dude, you really need to back off. But the reason I've had longevity in it is because I've done my homework. So when I'm suggesting these peptides to you, I'm encouraging you to do the same. You understand? And it isn't a matter of do as I say, not as I do. This is as I do now. You understand? I didn't play with peptides for a couple of years after I first heard about them, particularly BPC 157. Austin Cost, may rest in peace, introduced me to BPC 157. Spoke to me about it when I was down here in 2021, when I was recovering from having the first procedures done on my spine. I was in a bad spot, people. It was everything that I could do to crawl from the bed to the crapper and back. If it had not been for Charlie's son, Xavier, I don't know how I would have gotten by. He's a tremendous help. I couldn't dress myself. I never really let y'all in on a whole lot. of that. But I couldn't dress myself. Not a good place to be. Austin Cost told me about BPC 157. And as bad as I needed it, I was still a little too afraid to fully immerse myself. And it wasn't until over a year later that I finally got some nasal spray. BPC 157 and TB 500 blend. I believe it was called Wolverine Healing, and it was a nasal spray. And the first time I did it, I was on my way to Texas. And I had right before I got off the plane. Well, first thing in the morning, and then again right before I got off the plane. I was in Terminal C. Keep in mind, I hadn't had my hip replaced yet, right? So it was still bone on bone. And I had to walk through Terminal C. And if you guys are from Houston, Terminal C with United has been going over that big renovation that's been like 8 years in process now. It was a long walk, a very, very long walk. I stepped off the plane, realized it was going to be a long walk. And in my head, I'm already griping about it. Damn it, I'm going to have to stop 3 times. And I'm so busy griping about it that I don't realize that I'm a third of the way through and halfway through and 2/3 of the way through. And then it occurs to me, why is my hip not screaming at me right now? The effect was that profound and it was that instantaneous. Made a believer out of me immediately. I continued to use the nasal spray and then I moved up to the water-based injectable stuff. The process is involved. I won't call it complicated. For you guys that are out there that are thinking about using it for the first time, stat water, the sterile bacteriostatic water that you have to use to reconstitute this stuff, almost always it's shipped in a powder, in a vial. There are some people who are shipping the liquid now. I have not used anything that's been shipped as a liquid personally. So I can only speak to this stuff. It's shipped as a powder in a little vial, got the cap on it. You have to, all of the companies that sell these things sell that bacteriostatic water. You'll hear me refer to it as stat water. Okay. It's a sterile water that's got to be put in to the vial with the powder to reconstitute the product. Okay. If you want to know how much water per how many milligrams, do not ask me. You ask AI. You ask the internet. You ask any of 100 calculators that are available online, whether it's in an app or whether it's the AI exactly. Here's how I would phrase it. How much, if my intended goal is X, how much water do I need to put into 5 milligrams of BPC 157 to reconstitute it to that dosage? Do you understand? You guys are smart enough. You can ask the questions. You can do it. 1,000,001 calculators online. I can steer you in the general direction if anybody needs like some further references. It's fine. Ships as a powder. You have to buy the bacteriostatic water and you have to buy syringes. Here's the good news. Stat water and syringes are both available on Amazon. That's right. I remember being a junkie in the mid-90s and how difficult it was to find clean points. Boy, we don't know how good we have it today. There was a Fiesta off of North Main in the Heights, and they would sell insulin rigs to junkies knowingly. Right, there you go. First time hot, it kills it. Exactly. Thank you. And that's exactly, and that's another thing. You guys are going to need to keep this cool. This isn't something you can reconstitute and throw in the glove box of your pickup truck. Heat will destroy this stuff. Right. So right. Thank the explosion of diabetes. So what is the stuff that I'm currently running? TB 500 and BPC 157, right? That's the stuff that I'm currently running. What does that help with? It helps with tissue repair and it helps with inflammation, all right? My knees are screaming at me constantly because of years of abuse and powerlifting, okay? My hip is a replacement unit, but the other hip still hurts a lot. All of my joints hurt. I have a partially torn tendon in my rotator cuff. I have a partially torn tendon in my bicep. These are injuries that I'm having to work around. The BPC 157 and the TB 500 have worked wonders in tissue recovery, right? And taking away the inflammation from the joints themselves. I feel years younger. So that's the stuff, right? Yeah, it is, isn't it though? That's an amazing freaking blend. Thank you. Stuff is great. But there is literally a peptide out there for everything, guys. Peptide Sciences, one of the companies that I use, Core Peptides, another company that I use, and Polaris Peptides that I've just gotten their product for the first time, and it's doing phenomenally well. It's good stuff. For ladies who are concerned about weight loss that don't want to go through a doctor and get prescription tirzepatide or semaglutide, you don't have insurance, and it's too expensive, you can buy the raw peptides, semaglutide or tirzepatide. Reconstitute it yourself. Do whatever dose you want. Okay? What you were doing is you were taking responsibility for your own health. You were taking responsibility for your own pain threshold. Because when I spoke to doctors about this damage that I had, they were aware of damage to my lumbar spine. The only thing that they could do to my lumbar was go in and do what they ultimately wound up doing, burning the nerves and digging out osteophytes. That's all they could do. My hip, all they could do is replace it. And all they could do in the meantime was give me painkillers. Hard painkillers. Ones that would make me slaves to the priesthood. Do you understand how this works? I don't want to do that. Which is going to lead me to my next one. We're going to get into Kratom here in just a second. What you were doing with peptides is you were taking responsibility for your own health and your body the way you want to live. If you are having troubles with injuries, you've got TB 500 and BPC 157 available to you. If you are having problems with sex drive, you don't want to get into Viagra, PT 141, baby. You will be like an animal in rut. It is insane. Don't play with that one. You understand? Dip your toe in the pond very, very gently. Your wife will thank you for the first 2 nights. After that, you're going to be sleeping outside. Do you understand? Are we tracking? Good. Glad. Keep up here, Sparky. There are literally peptides for everything. You guys familiar with CRISPR, that gene hacking technology? These are people who are no longer going to bow to the priesthood. They are going to take their life and their health under their control. Yes, George, you can get some of them in pill form, including the BPC. What I will tell you, having done both, is that it is not going to be as effective, and it's not going to be as assimilated as quickly by your body. That's a very good question. And guys, if you've got any other questions, please throw them on out now. Do 500 milligram of Tren a week with 0 tests. Be a killer. Yeah, you're not going to be beholden to the priesthood. You can take care of your own tissue damage. You can take care of your own. You don't have to have some high priest to come down from on high and tell you must be on anti-inflammatories that will aggravate your digestive system, and then we will put you on painkillers, which will make you a slave, and none of that. Your health is in your hands. Ride this out while you can. You understand? They've already tried to make Kratom a Schedule 1. We're getting ready to jump into Kratom here in a second. What they're about is control. You guys better get used to this regimen now. Do it. You've still got the window. It's still open for you. Take advantage of it while you can. Wife has a chemical burn, open wound. Oh, wow. Okay. Again, I am not a medical professional. You guys caught that part, right? I'm not a physician. I'm not a medical professional. Okay. You guys should already be using some topical treatments on that. But yes, short answer, yes. It will help with tissue repair. It will. Now, if she or you are afraid of injections, okay, and if you're up for pills, what I'm going to suggest is a nasal spray. And there are several different peptide distributors that make a BPC 157/TB 500 blend nasal spray. I don't know if Wolverine Healing is still in business, but if somebody put, here we go. I'm going to just put BPC 157 TB 500. Oops. Run this back here. BPC 157 TB 500. There you go, George. I'm entering that in the comments. Does everybody see that? Here we go. There we go. BPC 157 TB 500. George, they have just Googled that with the word nasal spray, right? It'll be there for you. Pain control. Speaking of that, taking control of the inflammation and not being strung out of the pain. That is how I got turned on to Kratom. With all the injuries and guys, I have been down the pharmaceutical painkiller road. I have been there, right? I made that colossal mistake of, well, a doctor's prescribing it, so it can't be that bad. And next thing you know, you're shopping for doctors. It's a bad thing all the way around. Terrible, terrible thing all the way around. When I came off the stuff, I wound up having to use Suboxone to come off. I used Suboxone the right way. You take it and then step it down immediately and then you're done. But it damn near like to have killed me. So now I've got no habit, but now I've got pain. What do we do? Kratom. Kratom is an herb native to Southeast Asia. I hate to sound like one of those weed maggots, but bro, you got to find the right strain, dude. You got to find the right strain. You have country of origin, and then you have the different strains. Uh, White Borneo is going to hit different than red vein Borneo, which is going to hit different than red vein Mali. All right. You're going to have to play around with it a little bit, and you're going to have to do plenty of homework online before you even jump into it. What I will tell you is this stuff is absolutely magnificent. The one that I run on a daily basis, Bumblebee brand, White Borneo. White Borneo, Bumblebee brand, White Borneo. This is what I run on a daily basis, just like every other capsule. You start off with 1 or 2 capsules, see how it hits you, and proceed from there. What are the effects, Bart? I'm so glad you asked. It works as an analgesic and an anxiolytic. Those are my college words. I have like 3 of those. It does work to control pain, but it works to control anxiety as well. It's very, very relaxing. And I won't lie, right? Doctors often recommend which drug company subsidizes them the most. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, right. Ask Rush Limbaugh. Yeah, definitely. And keep in mind, my father was in pharmaceutical sales for years, so I know how the kickbacks and stuff work. I've seen it firsthand. In any case, analgesic and anxiolytic. The best way that I can describe it, and this is where we get into some trouble, think of it as an herbal Vicodin, okay? And because and when I say herbal Vicodin, I mean if I'm taking a ridiculous quantity of kratom, it'll hit about like a Tylenol 3 or maybe a 5 milligram hydrocodone, 5 milligram oxy, right? I won't deny that at higher doses, there's a buzz, and that's a draw for a lot of people. For a lot of people, it's too much of a draw. And that is where we get even more complicated when we get into the 7 ohms. The active alkaloid in this stuff, kratom, is mitragynine. This is 7-hydroxymitragynine. Did I mention that I'm not a medical professional? Probably be good to mention right now that I'm also not a chemist, right? So when I'm telling you that I have no idea the chemistry of how that one relates to the other, all that I can tell you is that this stuff is more concentrated, this stuff hits harder, and it's also easier to regulate. Okay. The only way you have to regulate capsules is the number of capsules that you do. This is very specifically regulated in the number of milligrams of 7-hydroxymitragynine per tablet. Now, there are any number of people that I'll use for that. I use CBD Mall is one of the places where I buy my 7 ohms. They sell a generic brand. What I will tell you is that across the board, the only thing that matters with 7-hydroxy, the only thing that matters is milligram dosage. In my experience, there's no difference brand to brand how the stuff hits or the purity or the quality. In my experience, no difference whatsoever. This stuff picked up at a local gas station, right? The one that I just popped one of, okay? It was $15 for the 2-pack. Why $15 for the 2-pack? Because it's a 40 milligram. Your typical and your best use dosage on that is going to be between 10 and 20, okay? So while this is, $15 for 2 tabs, well, actually it's $15 for 4 tabs because the amount that you should be doing, if particularly as a new user, is no higher than 10 to 20 milligrams, okay? What is it going to do for you? It's going to relax you. It's going to chill you the hell out. And whatever pain you are dealing with is going to be reduced. If you're walking around with a background noise pain threshold of about 9, it's going to take it down to a solid 4. That powerful? Yeah, that freaking powerful. Try it yourself and see. Again, I am not a medical professional. Do your homework before you jump into the pond, right? Because not everybody's affected the same. I've had people that have taken this for the very first time, threw up. I've had people that took a couple of kratom capsules and started itching all over, right? It happens. Know your own body. What I'm telling you is This stuff will make it possible for you to not have to deal with SSRIs to control your anxiety and not have to deal with opiate painkillers to deal with your pain. Again, putting control back in your hands, which is why the priesthood hates it. And in all fairness, they're not doing themselves any favors when they're marketing it with names like perks. Great job, guys. No. Making it reminiscent of Percocets? No, that's not going to bring down any heat from the FDA or the DEA. Knock yourselves out. It's irresponsible and it's stupid, and eventually it's going to catch up with them. But that's where it is for right now. Kratom can help you out a hell of a lot. But guys, when you come down to it, pay the money for the good stuff, all right? Go to a place like CBD Mall online or Payless Kratom online or any of a number of distributors that are putting out good quality stuff. You don't want to be throwing out, money for truck stop, gas station Kratom. Get the reputable producers, guys like Bumblebee, and that's the brand right there. Let me show it to you again. Bumblebee, product of Indonesia. Bumblebee White Borneo, right? Use like good quality, and when you do your homework, you'll find out. If you're just chasing a buzz, there's a strain called Train Wreck, and that pretty much is as described. You'll find that in the gas stations. I guarantee you, no matter where you run into a gas station that sells Kratom, you will find at least one bottle that will have the word Train Wreck on it. If you want to jump into the pond and you're feeling frisky, knock yourself out. Don't recommend it. All right, so that covers Kratom and that covers peptides. Let's talk about our psychological health next. How many of you have microdosed? How many of you out there are psychedelic advocates, period? You tell them about do you tell them about a Doan's pill? You know what, Ryan? You might have outkicked my coverage on that one. Is there something about Doan's? Maybe because that's something that I didn't know about. There's something special about it. Maybe you can help me out. I mean, I've taken Doan's, like for severe backaches and stuff. They work, but if there's some dirty little secret, I'd love for you to let us all in on it. Anyway, how many of you have attempted microdosing? Psychedelics. You just ordered, George, Wolverine Ultra, the nasal spray? Okay, good. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think of it, please. Let me know how it works out, please. And best of luck and God bless you. Did a lot of shrooms in the day and the Indian res back in the day. A lot of people have done psychedelics, okay? What I'm going to advocate for here is microdosing. Now, I'm not currently microdosing, but I was for a good period of months back around, let's call it 2023, maybe, right around there. I was microdosing for a good couple of months. It did me a world of good. Psychologically, I wasn't in a good place, and it basically helped me focus and get through the day. Thanks to the laws that are being put in place all over the country, decriminalizing even the hard drugs, stuff like psychedelics is getting treated like no big deal. Now, you can feel however you want about that. I have my own thoughts about cannabis, and perhaps we should do a whole freaking sermon on it, and maybe we will. But currently, take advantage of the window, guys, because it's going to be closing, and it's going to be closing quick, all right? To keep your dirty secrets to yourself. You hush, Joey. Damn it. I'll tell you some dirty secrets about Bishop if you push me. Anyway. Yeah, that one was just for you, big boy. Anyway. Microdosing can be incredibly helpful. And I would rather have someone microdosing psychedelics than anywhere close to SSRIs. SSRIs are pure poison. Poison administered by the priesthood. An unholy communion of sorts. Pure poison. Well, I know of this one guy. I don't care. I'm glad that the poison didn't work out as badly for him as it has for so many others. But sit down, shut up, you're wrong. Same thing with giving methamphetamine to kids, Adderall. Well, I had a guy that, sit down, shut up, you're wrong. Poison. Poison. And it's time that we get accustomed to being heretics and being able to say that. We still have the ability to take our own health into our own hands. And we're having to take it away from them kicking and screaming. And the last thing that I'll get into, the big S, anabolic steroids. Again, 26 years, mostly on. I will take a month off here, 2 months off there. Once I put it down for almost a year, picked it back up for a couple of months, put it down for almost another year. So when I say mostly on, I mean what I say. 26 years, mostly on. No major side effects. Even when I was younger and, like 30, when I first got into it, and I was doing absurd freaking doses, absurd freaking stacks. No major side effects, besides temper, right? What about the testicle thing? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Mine don't even shrink really so much as draw up, right? Like they're still the size that they were. They just sort of, like tuck up in there trying to keep warm, which makes everything else look bigger. So, aesthetically, it's a win. I know, more info than you needed. But now the priesthood is even coming around to doing what we're doing. And the priesthood loves to insulate themselves, don't they? It's not steroids, it's hormone replacement therapy. It's not steroids, it's TRT. Shut up. Shut up. Seriously, shut up. The testosterone cypionate that your doctor is administering to you as hormone replacement therapy because you're a 40-year-old guy and you need something to put the zippity back in your doodah. Same test that I take for lifting. Different dose. That's it. Okay? So don't let them get around you with that. All right? They lie. Colonel Kurtzman. They lie. And we must be merciful to those that lie. Those nabobs. I hate them. I do hate them. Sorry. Colonel Kurtz moment. They do lie. They told us for years that steroids were like the worst thing. Had all these terrible side effects, all these celebrity deaths, these athletic celebrity deaths according to anabolic steroids, none of which was true. Steroids did not kill Alzado or anybody else. You've got a chance to take that into your own hands. And I'm not going to go into the methods of acquisition anymore. Let's just say that the resources are available online if you're willing to go through all of it. If you want to have a personal conversation with me, then find my phone number, and that's a conversation that I'll have with you. They want you fat, sick, and stupid. I know. There I go with that tinfoil hat conspiracy talk again. They want you fat, sick, and stupid. They want you beholden to them. They want you on treatments because treatments are always preferable to a cure. Why? For the same reason that if you're a smart dope dealer, you sell coke. You don't sell acid. Why? Because if you sell acid, they show up for their dose, and then they go bye-bye. And you don't see them again. You sell them that 20 bag of coke, they're back 30 minutes later. Hey, man, just one more 20 and then I'm done. Hey, wait, just one more 20 and then I'm done. Hey, wait, just one more 20 and then I'm done. And they wind up doing an 8-ball the hard way. The money is always in the treatment. This whole thing, this premise that any grazer accepts, that these people are in it because they are in it for the public health, in it for the public good, in it for the betterment of mankind, grazers are going to graze. Ultimately, you are the one who is going to have to take responsibility for your own health. And yeah, I went over my 4 personal favorites here with regard to microdosing and peptides, right, and roids. Those happen to be my personal favorites. I like the peptide. I like the peptides. I like the roids. Shrooms have been beneficial. Microdosing, things like that. But ultimately, what I want you to do is go further down the rabbit hole and understand that what we are, what our system is right now is not healthcare, right? It's not a healthcare system. It's a sick care system. It's a sick care system. And by the way, Ryan, I'm glad you brought that up. If you guys want to take that up with Ryan, that is cool. I have used Ryan's guide, and his stuff is legit. It's a sick care system. No one is coming to save you. Across the board, no one is coming to save you. You have got to take matters into your own hands with regard to your personal life. And nothing could be more vital for that than your health. Now, as with most things, I'm studying contradictions. I still smoke. Sorry. Put it down for a couple of months there. Picked it back up again. My mistake. Stupid. But, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Turtle. Yes, a patient cured is a customer lost. Absolutely. That is a fact. But I'm always telling you guys to get your house in order. I'm always telling you guys, and I practice what I preach where this is concerned. You have got to keep yourself physically strong. You have got to keep yourself ready for the fight at all times. James Yeager, may you rest in peace. Your responsibility to be ready for the fight never ends. True story, right? You are not going to be able to work at your peak efficiency if you don't put the work in. However, putting the work in as you age gets more and more difficult. Believe me, I'm firsthand example of that. As you age, when the first digit of your age becomes a 4 and then eventually a 5, it gets more difficult to put your ass under some heavy iron. You get the cumulative effect of injuries. There are things that happen down the line and it gets more and more difficult. What these things will do is assist you in your recovery. It's not going to be the be all end all. You're still not going to be squatting, or you shouldn't be squatting what you were squatting when you were in your 20s. But as a matter of longevity, you have the potential to recover quicker, to bounce back quicker, and to be more and better situated to be ready for that fight when it comes. And believe me, guys, it's coming. It's here in a lot of ways. Ephesians 6:12, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual powers in high places. Spiritual wickedness in high places, rather. Yeah. But sometimes it does manifest in flesh and blood. And more likely, when it comes for you, it's going to be in a flesh and blood manifestation. We need to be operating at our peak. And for those of us who would just like to try to squeeze a few more years out because we got kids, because we got grandkids, want to live, want to see you prosper, these are things that will help you to that end. So I hope you guys will dig a little bit. There are peptides out there for everything. You're looking for longevity. You're looking to get some of your hair back. I know, real big concern for me. You're looking to get some of your hair back. You're looking to put the zippity back in your doodah. There are like literally peptides for everything. Get in, do some research. You guys want to build some muscle or recover quicker when you're training hard. Roids are out there. You guys are dealing with some things in your head and you don't want to go to a psych doctor. You don't want to get on SSRIs. Microdosing. Those sources are out there for you too. You guys need things to control your pain, right? But you don't want to be in a puddle of your own piss, drooling and giggling at stupid stuff. You don't want to get on painkillers. You got Kratom. These things are out there. Most people don't dip their toe in the pond because they never heard of it, and most people, even after they've heard of it, don't dip their toe in the pond because they're afraid. I understand that. New things always come with a risk. But if you don't risk it, you know what happens? Nothing. So if you're cool where you are, disregard everything that I had to say. Trust that you're going to be in good enough shape for the fight. I can tell you for a fact, I'm not. I can tell you a fact, on my best day, I'm not ready for the fight. I know that I'll do the best that I can with what I have. I know that I train as hard as I can given the circumstances. Literally doing the best I can do. Every little bit helps. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Take advantage of those things that can help you out. Barnett and asked, but I am on his prayers tonight. Sent in memory of Saul and his family. Oh, dude, I actually mentioned that earlier in the program. I mentioned Saul because we got Roger here. We got Roger here today, who was with us, who was part of the original Denver Harbor crew. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Good days. Which is another reminder, Ryan. We all get old. Memento mori, right? Everybody dies. Make the best that you can of the years that you have on this earth, taking care of the people that love you and the people that you love. That's it. About Clint and salt baths. Salt baths. Go wait on. No, we are not doing that. And I'm not going swimming with polar bears in freaking Siberian waters either. You can forget about all that good stuff. Let me close with a prayer real quick, folks. Lord God, I thank you again for this chance to live in a time where a no count scrub still has the audience, where I can click some buttons on a keypad and have the same exposure that once upon a time I would have had to bow down before the ministry to be able to get that kind of exposure. And now we can just reach out. Me and my brothers here, we can all just sit and have a conversation. No matter where we are in this world, no matter where we are in our life, we can all just sit and have a conversation. I thank you for living in such a time as this. I'm not oblivious to the stuff that is going on in the world. There's a big push, Lord, and Ephesians 6:12 aside, the powers of darkness are asserting themselves. They are asserting themselves in some very, very tangible ways. And we are finally hitting a point of pushback. I am seeing the glory of this revival all over the world, Lord. But every movement starts with individuals. So we as individuals have to step up and rise to the challenge to make ourselves the best that we can be under any set of circumstances. Not just for the fight, but to be better men, to be better brothers to our brothers, to be better fathers to our sons. Help us to that end, Lord. Help us to that end. Admonish us like you did in Proverbs, that as iron sharpens iron, one brother sharpens another. We are here to sharpen each other, Lord. Make each other ready for the fight. Help us to that end, Lord. May all the glory be yours. Pray in the mighty name of Jesus, the risen Christ. Stand ready to serve the kingdom, Father, Son, and Spirit. Omnia ad regnum. All things for the kingdom, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you guys for showing up tonight, man. Appreciate it. Kind of all over the place, last minute thing, but we're here, and at least I got something in the backdrop now besides just potted plants. But making do while we're in San Marcos, man. Appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to pass that digital collection plate around. If you guys want to kick down, man, it would be fantastic. Certainly appreciate it. I'm going to start my next gig the 18th of next month. Till then, I'll be here in San Marcos and partially down in Houston for a minute or two. So I appreciate it. If you guys want to kick down, I'll pass that digital collection plate around. Let me go ahead and put that banner up just so you guys know. This is all the addresses. I'm on Venmo. I'm on Cash App. I'm on PayPal. I'm pretty sure I'm on Zelle. I know I'm on I'm not on Facebook pay right now. I still need to get that rectified. If you guys want to kick down something, if anything I had to say made your life a little bit better, made you reflect on some stuff, then hey, man, cool. If not, I totally get it. Economic times are still tough, and we're going to be living the effects of the Biden administration, at least for the first year of Trump, but he's got us on the right track. Feel how you want to feel about anything, people. But here's what you can do for me, man. You can spread the word on your own social media platforms, man. If you've got a Facebook page or a Twitter feed or whatever, tell them about it. Let them know. Fat, toothless, crippled, crane operator with some opinions, gets on rants and raves a couple hours every Sunday. Like my kid in spirit, maybe you'll find something out of it, man. Cool. Send them my way. Help us spread that gospel. But here's what you can do, not just for me, but for yourselves. Too bad Stone's not here tonight because he give you the hashtag. Hashtag is live the three, baby. Live the three. Live the three. What's that about? Live the three. The three prime directives, man. Directive number one, you got to be that signal in a world full of noise. The signal is the truth. The signal are the facts. The signal is that heartfelt sentiment that you know is rooted in truth. The noise are the distractions, the deceptions, the illusions, towering misrepresentations that are put before you every single day to cloud your judgment, make it impossible to ascertain the truth. You got to be that signal that breaks through the noise. You got to be the light in a world full of darkness. They'll try to bury you with that darkness, man. Smother you, demoralize you, dehumanize you, emasculate you with the darkness, make you think there is nothing but darkness. That's when you've got to be that light. You got to be that light that punches through the darkness. You got to be that tenacious light bearer that carries it through that long-lasting fog to get to the other side, to get that light through the darkness. And that takes a lot of tenacity, which brings me to the third and final rule, the iron rule. Strength in a world full of weakness. What is that about? Talking about strength, not just this way, not just here. It's got to be here. It's got to be here, and you better believe it's got to be here. Why? Because without strength, none of the rest of it matters. If you don't have strength, you're not going to be able to punch that signal through the noise. You're not going to be able to carry that punch to carry the truth through the lies. If you don't have strength, you're not going to have the punch to get that light through the darkness, nor are you going to have the tenacity to carry that light as long as it takes. Because sometimes that darkness lasts a hell of a lot longer than we'd like it to. Sometimes that darkness, that fog runs a hell of a lot thicker and deeper. Without strength, none of the rest of it matters. Not going to get all Bruce Lee on you, but you guys remember Mr. Hine, right? Who knows what beauty has died out of the world for want of the strength to survive. So carry that strength with you every day. Evangelize by example. Carry that strength. Carry yourself strong. And when you hit your knees, son, and you better be, when you hit your knees at night, pray for that strength, but also pray for clarity and discernment. Because the ways of the deceiver are many, and they will always try to cloud your judgment. So watch your ass, man. Pray for that strength, clarity, and discernment always. Put your ass under some iron and your face in some scripture. Your life is going to be a better place. I promise you. Boss Man's got the plan. Carpenter's got your back. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. God bless you all, man. I love y'all. Thank you for being here. And I mean that. Thank you. You guys honor me. Hope I can honor you by giving you something back. God bless. See you next Sunday, God willing. Peace.